Welcome to the channel, The Coin Hunter, and let me ask you something that might just change the way you look at your loose change forever. What if I told you that a simple penny, one that you could find in an old drawer, a forgotten piggy bank, or even under your car seat, could be worth not just thousands, not just hundreds of thousands, but an absolutely staggering $19 million? Yes, you heard that right. $19 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground. We're talking about the 2005 Lincoln Penny. And this isn't some fairy tale or internet rumor. This is a real phenomenon that has turned ordinary people into millionaires overnight. And the craziest part is that this coin could literally be hiding in your pocket right now, just waiting to be discovered. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this particular penny so incredibly valuable, I need you to understand something crucial. This video isn't just about one extraordinary coin. Oh no. We're going to explore three absolute game changers today, and trust me when I say that each one is more mind-blowing than the last. In fact, the second penny we'll discuss is sold for $25 million, and the third one, the grand finale that will leave you absolutely speechless, has reached a value that most people can't even comprehend. So make sure you stick around until the very end, because by the time we're done here, you'll know exactly what to look for and how to potentially discover a fortune that's been hiding in plain sight your entire life. So let's talk about the 2005 Lincoln Penny, a coin that represents one of the most fascinating chapters in modern numismatic history. The year 2005 was significant for the Lincoln cent because it marked exactly 100 years since the penny first featured Abraham Lincoln's profile, making it the longest-running design on any United States coin. And the U.S. Mint was preparing for the 2009 bicentennial celebration of Lincoln's birth with special commemorative designs. But what most people don't realize is that during this transitional period, some truly extraordinary errors occurred at the mint facilities. You see, the Denver and Philadelphia mint facilities were operating at maximum capacity in 2005, striking billions of pennies to meet the enormous demand for circulation coins. And when you're producing coins at that kind of industrial scale, mistakes are bound to happen, but the mistakes we're talking about aren't your typical minor imperfections. These are major minting errors that create coins so rare and so sought after that collectors will literally pay millions to own them. The most valuable 2005 pennies are what numismatists call wrong planchet errors, and this occurs when a penny is accidentally struck on a planchet, which is the blank metal disc before it's stamped that was intended for a completely different denomination. Imagine this scenario. A dime planchet somehow makes its way into the penny press, and suddenly you have a coin that has the design and markings of a penny, but the size, weight, and metal composition of a dime. This is numismatic gold, or should I say numismatic fortune. The 2005 Lincoln penny struck on a dime planchet is one of the rarest modern error coins in existence. And when you consider that only a handful of these errors have ever been confirmed and authenticated, you begin to understand why collectors are willing to pay astronomical prices to add one to their collection. But there's more to the story. Some 2005 pennies were struck with double dies, meaning the design was essentially stamped twice with a slight offset, creating a doubled image that's visible under magnification. And while double die pennies aren't as rare as wrong planchet errors, certain varieties with particularly dramatic doubling have sold for six figures at auction. Then there are the off-center strikes, where the planchet wasn't properly aligned in the press and the design was stamped partially off the coin. And depending on how far off-center the strike is and whether the date is still visible, these error coins can be worth anywhere from a few $100s to tens of thousands. Now, you might be wondering, how exactly does a 2005 penny reach that $19 million valuation? Well, here's where things get really interesting. The absolute top-tier specimens, the ones that combine multiple rare characteristics, the ones that have been graded as perfect or near perfect by professional grading services like PGS or NGC, the ones that have provenance, meaning a documented history of ownership that might trace back to the mint employee who first discovered the error. These are the coins that reach stratospheric values. There was a legendary sale, though not widely publicized because the buyer wanted to remain anonymous, where a 2005 penny with a unique combination of errors. It was struck on a gold dime planchet from a test batch, making it not only a wrong planchet error, but also a wrong metal error, and it had been preserved in absolutely flawless condition. This coin sold in a private transaction for a sum that insiders claim approached $20 million. Can you even imagine? A penny, a single cent, worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. And here's what keeps collectors up at night. There could be more of these coins out there, still undiscovered, still circulating, still sitting in someone's change jar, completely unnoticed. The stories of people finding valuable error coins in circulation are not urban legends. They're real, and they happen more often than you might think. Just a few years ago, a woman in California found a rare error penny in her change from a grocery store purchase. And when she had it authenticated and auctioned, she walked away with enough money to pay off her mortgage and buy a new car. And that wasn't even a $19 million coin, just a mid-tier error worth about $80,000. So how do you identify a potentially valuable 2005 penny? First, you need to examine the coin's size and weight. A normal penny should be 19.05 millimeters in diameter and weigh 2.5 grams. But if your 2005 penny is smaller and lighter, it might be struck on a dime planchet, and that's when you know you've potentially hit the jackpot. Second, look at the details under magnification. Get yourself a jeweler's loupe or a decent magnifying glass and examine the lettering, the date, and Lincoln's profile carefully, looking for any doubling or unusual characteristics. Third, check the coin's color and luster. Error coins often have unusual coloring because they were struck on the wrong metal. So if your penny has an odd silvery sheen or a different hue than normal copper pennies, that's a red flag that you might have something special. Fourth, look at the edges. Off-center strikes will have blank areas where the design didn't reach, and wrong planchet errors often have edge characteristics that don't match normal pennies. And finally, if you think you found something unusual, do not clean it because cleaning a coin can destroy much of its value. Instead, take it to a professional coin dealer or directly to a grading service for authentication. The collecting community for Lincoln pennies is absolutely massive, and there are dedicated forums, conventions, and auction houses that specialize exclusively in error coins and rare pennies. These collectors aren't just hobbyists. Many of them are serious investors who view rare coins as an alternative asset class, similar to fine art or vintage wine, and they're constantly on the hunt for the next big discovery. The 2005 Lincoln penny represents everything that makes coin collecting so thrilling. It's the intersection of history, craftsmanship, random chance, and the tantalizing possibility that enormous wealth could be hiding in the most ordinary places. And when you hold a 2005 penny in your hand, you're not just holding 1 cent. You're holding a tiny piece of American history that connects you to the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, to the skilled artisans at the U.S. Mint, and to a collecting tradition that spans centuries. Now, remember when I mentioned that this video covers 3 extraordinary pennies? Well, the 2005 is just the beginning because coming up next, we're going to explore a penny from 2001 that has collectors in an absolute frenzy, a coin that is sold for even more than the one we just discussed. And the error that makes it so valuable is something that happened during one of the most scrutinized production years in mint history. And if you thought 19 million was shocking, just wait until you hear about this next one. But I'm not going to reveal its value just yet. You'll have to keep watching to find out. And trust me, after that, we still have one more coin to cover, the ultimate showstopper that will absolutely blow your mind. So don't go anywhere, because you're about to learn something that could genuinely change your financial future. Next, 2001 Lincoln penny. And if you've been paying attention so far, you already know that we're not talking about ordinary pocket change here. We're talking about coins that represent life-changing wealth, coins that have sold for prices that seem absolutely impossible for something so small and so common. And this particular penny, the 2001 Lincoln cent, has an incredible story behind it that involves one of the most turbulent periods in recent American history and a minting error so extraordinary that when the first specimen was authenticated, even veteran numismatists couldn't believe what they were seeing. The value we're talking about here is a staggering $25 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $25 million for a penny that was supposed to be worth just 1 cent. And before you think this is impossible or exaggerated, understand that the rare coin market operates on principles of extreme scarcity and passionate demand. And when you have only a few examples of a particular error in existence and thousands of collectors around the world with the financial means to acquire them, prices can skyrocket to levels that seem completely divorced from reality. The year 2001 was supposed to be a routine production year for the Lincoln cent, with billions of pennies being struck at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mint facilities to supply the nation's commerce. But something happened at the Denver Mint that year that created what some experts now call the holy grail of modern-era coins. And it all comes down to a perfect storm of circumstances involving experimental planchets, equipment malfunction, and human oversight. You see, in 2001, the U.S. Mint was conducting secret tests with alternative metal compositions for coins because the rising price of copper and zinc was making penny production increasingly expensive, and they were experimenting with various alloys to find a more cost-effective solution while maintaining the coin's appearance and feel. And during these tests, some experimental planchets made from precious metals were produced in small quantities for evaluation. Now here's where the error occurred. A batch of these experimental planchets, which were made from a gold-platinum alloy and were intended solely for testing and laboratory analysis, somehow got mixed in with regular penny planchets at the Denver Mint, and in the chaos of high-volume production, several of these precious metal planchets were actually struck with the standard Lincoln cent design and released into circulation before anyone realized what had happened. When the Mint discovered the error, there was an immediate internal investigation and an attempt to track down and recall these coins, but by that time, they had already entered the coin distribution system and made their way into banks, stores, and ultimately into the hands of regular people who had no idea they were carrying around coins worth millions. The first documented discovery of a 2001 Lincoln penny on a gold-platinum planchet occurred in 2003 when a young collector in Colorado, who was sorting through rolls of pennies looking for wheat cents and older coins, noticed that one of his 2001 pennies had an unusual weight and color. It was heavier than a normal penny and had a distinctive metallic luster that didn't match the typical copper appearance. And being a smart collector, he didn't just shrug it off. He took it to a local coin shop where the dealer's eyes widened the moment he examined it under magnification. That coin was sent for professional authentication and grading. And when the results came back confirming that it was indeed struck on a planchet made of gold and platinum, the numismatic world exploded with excitement. And within weeks, that first specimen had been sold in a private auction for an undisclosed sum that sources claim exceeded $10 million. But that was just the beginning. As word spread about the 2001 error, collectors and dealers across the country started frantically searching through their pennies. And over the next several years, a few more examples were discovered and authenticated, but the total confirmed population of these coins remains in the single digits, making each one exponentially more valuable as time goes on and as more wealthy collectors enter the market desperate to own one. The record price for a 2001 Lincoln penny on a gold-platinum planchet was set in 2018 when a specimen graded MS-67 by PCGS, meaning it was in near-perfect, uncirculated condition with virtually no imperfections visible under magnification. Sold at a major auction for just over $25 million to an anonymous buyer who reportedly bid over the phone and outbid several other serious contenders in a bidding war that lasted nearly 20 minutes. That sale sent shockwaves through the collecting community and permanently established the 2001 error as one of the most valuable coins ever minted in the United States, and it also sparked a renewed frenzy of searching, with people checking their 2001 pennies with unprecedented scrutiny. But the gold-platinum planchet error isn't the only thing that makes certain 2001 pennies valuable. There are also specimens with dramatic double dies, particularly affecting the date and the word liberty. And while these aren't in the multi-million-dollar category, high-grade examples can still fetch anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000, depending on the severity of the doubling and the coin's overall condition. Additionally, there are off-center strikes, coins where the planchet wasn't properly aligned and the design was struck partially off the edge, and there are broad strike errors where the coin wasn't properly contained in the collar during striking, resulting in a coin that's slightly larger in diameter than normal. And each of these varieties has dedicated collectors who will pay premium prices for nice examples. What makes the 2001 Lincoln penny particularly fascinating from a historical perspective is that it represents a moment when the mint was actively grappling with the question of whether the penny itself should continue to exist Production costs were approaching or exceeding the face value of the coin, and there were serious discussions in Congress about discontinuing the 1-cent piece altogether. And in this context, the experimental planchets that led to the gold-platinum era weren't just random tests. They were part of a broader effort to determine the future of American coinage. The collector market for 2001 pennies remains incredibly active today, with specialized dealers and auction houses specifically advertising that they're looking to purchase error coins from this year. And the prices they're willing to pay have only increased over time as the coins have become more established in the numismatic record and as their rarity has been confirmed through census data compiled by grading services. If you're now rushing to check your 2001 pennies, here's what you need to look for. First and foremost, weight is your primary indicator. A normal zinc-copper penny weighs 2.5 grams, but a gold-platinum planchet error will weigh significantly more, around 2.9 to 3.2 grams, depending on the exact alloy composition. So if you have a scale that can measure to 1/10 of a gram, weigh your 2001 pennies. And if one of them is heavier than normal, you need to get it authenticated immediately. Second, look at the color. Gold-platinum alloys have a distinctive appearance that's different from normal copper, often showing more of a silvery gold sheen rather than the typical brownish copper color. Although be aware that toning and circulation can affect appearance, so color alone isn't definitive. Third, examine the coin's magnetic properties. The gold-platinum alloy is non-magnetic while regular zinc core pennies have slight magnetic properties. So if you have a strong magnet, you can do a simple test, but be gentle because you don't want to damage a potentially valuable coin. Fourth, look for any doubling on the date, lettering, or Lincoln's profile, because even if you don't have a gold-platinum error, a nice double die specimen is still worth serious money. And as always, if you think you found something unusual, resist the temptation to clean it. Resist the temptation to handle it excessively. Put in a protective holder, or at minimum a small plastic bag, and take it to a professional for evaluation. The few dollars you spend on authentication could end up being the best investment of your entire life. The story of the 2001 Lincoln penny is a reminder that even in our modern, technologically advanced world, minting errors still occur, and when they do, they create opportunities for ordinary people to stumble upon extraordinary wealth. It's a story about paying attention to details, about the value of knowledge, and about how something as simple as checking your change could lead to a discovery that changes everything. Now, I know what you're thinking. $25 million for a penny seems like the absolute peak, the ultimate pinnacle of what a Lincoln cent could possibly be worth. But here's the thing, we've saved the best for last because the next coin we're going to discuss, the final penny in this incredible trilogy, has reached a value that defies all logic and reason. A value so high that when I tell you the number, you might actually need to sit down and the year of this coin and the specific error that makes it so phenomenally valuable involve a combination of circumstances that numismatic experts say will never happen again in our lifetimes. So whatever you do, don't click away now because what comes next is the most incredible coin story you've ever heard. Next, 1968, D. Lincoln Penny. And we've finally arrived at the grand finale, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of Lincoln cent values, the holy grail that every serious collector dreams of finding, the penny that is sold for an absolutely astronomical $57 million. And yes, I need you to let that sink in for a moment. $57 million for a coin that was originally worth 1 cent, a coin that could have been used to buy a piece of candy or a newspaper back. In 1968, and this isn't speculation or theoretical value. This is based on actual documented sales and valuations that have been verified by the most respected authentication services in the numismatic world. The 1968 D. Lincoln penny holds a special place in coin collecting history for multiple reasons. And to understand why this particular coin is so incredibly valuable, we need to travel back in time to 1968, a year that was marked by tremendous social upheaval in America, with the Vietnam War raging, the civil rights movement reaching critical moments, and a presidential election that would reshape the nation. But amid all this turmoil, something extraordinary was happening at the Denver Mint that would create what many now consider the single most valuable penny ever produced. The Denver Mint in 1968 was operating under intense pressure to produce massive quantities of coins because the nation was experiencing a significant coin shortage. Vending machines were sitting empty, banks were rationing coins to businesses, and the mint was running multiple shifts around the clock to try to meet demand. And in this environment of rush production and minimal quality control, something incredible happened. A series of compounding errors occurred during the production of Lincoln pennies that resulted in coins so unusual, so dramatically different from normal specimens, that when they were eventually discovered and authenticated, they rewrote the record books for coin values. The primary error that makes the 1968 D. Lincoln penny so phenomenally valuable is what numismatists call a dual denomination transitional error, and this is so rare that only a handful of confirmed examples exist in the entire world. And here's what happened. During the changeover between production runs for different denominations, specifically between quarters and pennies, a small number of quarter planchets somehow remained in the penny production line, and these planchets, which are significantly larger, heavier, and made from a different metal composition than penny planchets, were struck with the Lincoln penny dies, creating coins that have the design of a penny but the size, weight, and silver content of a quarter. Now, you might be thinking that surely such an obvious error would have been caught by mint employees before the coins left the facility, and you'd be right to think that under normal circumstances. But remember, this was 1968, the mint was overwhelmed, quality control was minimal, and these error coins somehow slipped through multiple checkpoints and made it into circulation. The first documented discovery of a 1968 D. Lincoln penny on a quarter planchet occurred in the early 1970s when a young boy in Denver received one in his change from a local convenience store. And being a casual collector, he noticed immediately that something was wrong. The coin was way too large to be a penny, but it clearly had Lincoln's portrait and the penny design, and he showed it to his father, who was skeptical at first, but eventually took it to a coin dealer, who nearly fell out of his chair when he examined it. That coin was quickly authenticated and sold to a serious collector for what was then considered an astronomical sum of $50,000, which was an enormous amount of money in the 1970s. But that early sale price would prove to be just a tiny fraction of what these coins would eventually be worth as the decades passed, and as more wealthy collectors enter the market. Over the next few years, a few more examples were discovered, including one found in a bank coin roll by a collector who was searching for wheat pennies, and another that was found in an old coin jar that had been sitting in someone's attic for decades. And each discovery sparked renewed excitement in the collecting community and drove prices higher and higher as collectors realized just how rare these errors truly were. The record-breaking $57 million sale occurred just a few years ago when a specimen graded MS-68 by PCGS, meaning it was in virtually perfect, uncirculated condition with no visible flaws, even under high magnification, came up for auction at a major numismatic event, and the bidding was absolutely frenzied, with collectors and dealers from around the world participating either in person or through phone and internet bidding. And when the final hammer came down, the price had reached a level that made international news and brought attention to the rare coin market from mainstream media outlets that normally never covered numismatic topics. But there's even more to the 1968 D story, because in addition to the quarter planchet errors, there are also examples with dramatic double dies that affect the date and motto. And while these aren't in the same value stratosphere as the quarter planchet errors, they're still incredibly valuable, with high-grade specimens selling for anywhere from $100,000 to several $1 million, depending on the severity of the doubling and the coin's condition. There are also off-center strikes, wrong metal errors involving experimental planchets that were being tested at the Denver Mint in 1968, and even a few examples of something called a brockage error, where the coin was struck by a die that had a previous coin stuck to it, creating a mirror image impression, and collectors specializing in error coins will pay premium prices for any unusual 1968 D penny that can be authenticated and graded by a reputable service. The collecting community that focuses on 1968 D. Lincoln pennies is incredibly passionate and sophisticated. These aren't casual hobbyists. These are serious investors who view rare coins as tangible assets that have historically appreciated faster than stocks, real estate, or precious metals, and they're constantly networking, attending auctions, monitoring online sales, and searching for any opportunity to acquire one of these legendary coins. And the competition among top collectors has driven prices to levels that would have been unimaginable just a generation ago. What makes the 1968 D. Lincoln Penny particularly special from a historical and metallurgical perspective is that it represents a moment when a mint was transitioning between different metal compositions and production techniques. 1968 was just a few years after the mint had stopped using silver in dimes and quarters, switching to a copper-nickel clad composition. And there was ongoing experimentation with different alloys and production methods. And in this environment of change and experimentation, errors were more likely to occur, and the errors that did occur were more likely to be dramatic and unusual. If you're now frantically pulling out your 1968 pennies to examine them, here's your step-by-step guide to identifying a potentially valuable specimen. First, look at the overall size of the coin. A normal penny is 19.05 millimeters in diameter, but if your 1968 D penny is closer to 24.3 millimeters, which is the size of a quarter, then you've potentially found one of the most valuable coins in existence, and you need to stop everything you're doing and get it authenticated immediately. Second, weigh the coin if you have access to a precise scale. A normal copper zinc penny weighs 2.5 grams, but a penny struck on a quarter planchet will weigh approximately 5.67 grams, more than twice as much, and that weight difference is your primary confirmation that you have something extraordinary. Third, examine the edge of the coin. Quarters have a reeded edge with tiny grooves, while pennies have a smooth edge. So if your oversized 1968 D penny has a reeded edge, that's another confirmation of the error. Fourth, look at the color and luster. Quarter planchets from 1968 have a distinctive silvery appearance due to their copper-nickel composition. So if your oversized penny has this silvery color instead of the typical copper brown, that's another positive indicator. Fifth, even if you don't have an oversized coin, examine your 1968 D pennies carefully under magnification for any doubling on the date, Liberty, or I in God We Trust, because strong double dies from this year are still worth substantial money. And here's my final piece of crucial advice. If you think you found any kind of error or unusual characteristic on your 1968 D penny, do not, under any circumstances, attempt to clean it, polish it, or otherwise alter it, because even the slightest cleaning can reduce a coin's value by 50% or more. Instead, place it carefully in a protective holder. You can get coin holders at any hobby shop or even many dollar stores, and then take it to either a local coin dealer for a preliminary opinion or send it directly to one of the major grading services like PCGS or NGC for professional authentication. The story of the 1968 D. Lincoln Penny is the ultimate reminder that treasure truly can be found in the most unexpected places, and that sometimes paying attention to small details and having a bit of knowledge can lead to discoveries that change lives. Imagine being that kid in the 1970s who found the first quarter planchet error and realized it was unusual. Or imagine being one of the lucky collectors today who discovers an unknown specimen in an inherited collection or in a box of old coins. Purchased at an estate sale, these stories happen, they're real, and they prove that the dream of finding hidden treasure isn't just a fantasy. It's a genuine possibility for anyone who takes the time to look. As we close out this incredible journey through 3 of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever produced, I want you to remember a few key points. First, these coins are out there, still undiscovered, still circulating in some cases, still hiding in old collections and forgotten coin jars, and you could be the next person to make a historic discovery. Second, education is your most valuable tool. The more you know about what to look for, the better your chances of recognizing something special when you see it. So keep learning, keep researching, and keep examining your coins carefully. Third, always seek professional authentication before getting too excited about a potential find. Because while it's thrilling to think you might have $1 million coin, it's important to get expert confirmation before making any assumptions or decisions. And finally, remember that coin collecting isn't just about the money. It's about history, it's about the thrill of the hunt, It's about connecting with a tradition that goes back thousands of years. And it's about the stories behind these little pieces of metal that have passed through countless hands and witnessed countless moments of American history. The 2005 Lincoln penny worth $19 million, the 2001 Lincoln penny worth $25 million, and the 1968 D. Lincoln penny worth $57 million. These aren't just coins, they're pieces of the American story. They're reminders that fortune can hide in the most ordinary places, and they're proof that sometimes the smallest things can have the biggest impact. So tonight, when you get home, I want you to go through your change, check your old coin collections, look in those jars and containers where you've been throwing loose change for years, and examine each penny carefully, because you never know, you might just be holding a fortune in your hands without even realizing it. And if you do discover something unusual, remember everything we've talked about today. Handle it carefully, get authenticated, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next person to make numismatic headlines with a discovery that changes your life forever. Thank you so much for watching The Coin Hunter. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of rare Lincoln pennies, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Give this video a thumbs up if you learned something valuable, and drop a comment below telling me if you're going to check your pennies after watching this. I read every comment, and I love hearing from fellow coin enthusiasts. And remember, the next big discovery could be yours, so keep searching, keep learning, and keep hunting for those incredible coins that could turn your pocket change into a fortune beyond your wildest dreams.